Spread, Nesson's sports betting picks podcast. I got football on the brain. That's the second time I've misspoke in the last 20 seconds about football. We're getting close.
Yeah.
We're getting close.
But that countdown's getting quicker and quicker.
That thing
Right? So
was
we said that
speeding
last
through.
week, but
Yeah.
I think it was faster this week.
Got a new producer this week. I think he sped it up on us.
Yeah,
he's already throwing curveballs.
Heavy.
Yeah,
He's getting lead foot back
I like
there.
it though.
Heavy on the throttle.
Get people uncomfortable. Get them out of their comfort zone. I love that play. We just made it. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about. Nobody even knows who we are. I'm Mike Cole, Nesson.com editor, whatever. Ricky Doyle is also with me. He's also from Nesson.com. All out of sorts because I screwed that up. But Ricky, we're in the dead of summer. It is middle of July. It's the trademark slowest sports week of the year. We're going to try to find a way to talk about sports and maybe weave in some sports betting stuff. I will say we are getting close to football season too.
Yes.
So
yes, but big weather guys that we are. We're in the midst of a little heat wave.
Dude, it's been 95 degrees for a month and a half. Like when I went on vacation, that was the start of it. So I was down in the vineyard and it was like 75 all week or whatever. It's beautiful. But like that was the first. I remember seeing the weather up here was like, that's when it started. And I don't think it's relented since then. So it's been legit a month and a half. It beats the pants out of snow though. So I'll take it. I'm embracing it. I'm having some issues at home though. I don't know how much of I should get into. Well, not, yeah. We've had a deck rebuild recently, running into some contracting problems.
Oh, yeah, you kind of alluded to this.
So I gotta be pretty sharp with my picks here, or I gotta eventually take somebody to court, one way or the other. The money is becoming a bit of an issue. We have some, I'll just say, some electricity issues now as well in the backyard. Are you familiar with grounding wire?
So this is gonna be like, is it like Meet the Parents? Like you're gonna have a couple down wires away from total chaos in the backyard.
So we got the deck built, inspected. The inspector says no, I cannot approve this.
Too much damn lacquer on that thing.
So I'm not gonna name any names. I'm not even gonna tell you the town I live in. Our contractor literally left an outlet dangling from the deck, and so I used it like it was. I was like, I think I'll be right. I put on gloves. I put on like work gloves. Like I'm like, I'll be
mittens.
Good.
You got
like, rubber gloves.
The ones with they fold back and then it's like the Home Alone gloves.
Yeah. So I was like, all right,
Sticky bandits.
It's 100 degrees out every goddamn day. I can't use our swimming pool.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to use it all year, and so we get rejected. And my wife
live wires around the swimming pool.
Yeah. Well, so they cut the grounding wire. I don't even know what that is necessarily. My wife, God bless her, has been dealing with all of this, the contractor and everything. So we're like, we're done with you. We'll get to you eventually. We're bringing in an electrician. So we got an electrician trust guy. He comes in, basically was like, yo, you guys should not be out there. Like, should not. Like 2 days earlier, I'm sitting there walking around, skimming the pool, putting the robot in, pulling it out, putting my hand in. I'm like, I could have been zapped. You'd have to find a new co-host. So there's a lot going on, despite the fact that it's a tough time of year. I guarantee you, we're still probably a week or two away from being fully done with all this. That's not even getting into potential legal issues. Like, I guarantee you this heat wave ends as soon as that thing gets done and it's time to go swimming, and it's going to be like 65 and rain for the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
So
you know it.
There is a reprieve coming. I don't know when it's coming, but I can guarantee you that we're going to have a little relief from this.
Have, I think your neighbors have your back though, right? You have a pretty good rapport with your neighbors.
100%. Actually, we've been, again, don't want to get into too many details. Our neighbor across the street is a realtor, and she's been. She's basically acting as like a pro bono lawyer for us at this point.
Just bounce ideas off.
Yeah,
her.
no, she's like, I'll call this person, this person, this person. She's like calling up the town, being like, is there a the inspector coming out for this? Got other people all up in my business being like, hey, it looks great. I'm like, well, let me tell you something.
It's a very underrated aspect of getting older is like having like a versatile friend group for like a versatile Rolodex that you'd be like, hey, I get car trouble. I can call this guy.
Especially if you live in a town like I do, which again, I'm not going to get into that, but it's like there's a lot of manual labor experts in terms of, so everybody's cousin, brother, sister, mother is a contractor, a handyman, something like that. It's like,
and
hey,
dummies like us can be like, hey, hypothetically speaking, how should I go about fixing this?
There's nothing more humbling than that type of stuff, but it is what it is. So that's where we're at.
I did have a quick car story for you because if we specialize in anything, it's the weather.
I got some car stories too. If we're talking
household, the decline of the household, and vehicular issues.
Yeah.
So today, as you know, I've had trouble with the horn in my Jeep.
Yeah.
This has been about a year-long thing now at this point.
Yeah.
So a guy in front of me at the intersection goes like halfway through it and gave like the oh boy, like nah, I gotta back up. Whatever, I give him a little space. So he backs up, gets back behind like to where he should be at the red light. I noticed though, he keeps it in reverse. He doesn't put it back in drive. So I'm sitting behind him like a lame duck. Like, this dude's going to back into me. So I'm like, but I can't beep at him because I got the horn issue. So I'm like, got the hand out the window, like, hey, trying to remind him. So fortunately, he started to back up and then like give like a knee jerk and threw it in drive. But
you're just pulling out. I was pulling out pennies out of the center console.
I was sitting there just waiting for this dude to just back right into me. So.
The guy backs into you. First thing you do, if that happens again, guy backs into you, lay into the horn and be like, "You broke my horn, dude."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, good. God
this guy backed into me, and all my horn won't stop honking. Did you get the fluids cleared up? Liquids, whatever. Didn't you have something coming out of your car? That's probably just.
Yeah, I'm just checking them off.
Guessing that's just cooler.
Time. No, I had to
AC
put some
stuff?
serious work into it last year.
It's weird. It's just like,
yeah. Let's move on.
My car's still.
Long story short, the guy did not back.
I got my starter replaced. The car's still kind of like giving me fits when I start it. Like, I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah.
I pulled it out the other day. I stopped to get something on the way home, and like my key was really hot. So I'm like Googling. Key is hot after pulling out an ignition. It's just like, I am so clueless here. So what I'm not clueless.
I always love like just Googling things that you could probably figure out a different way.
I think we've talked about this before. My Google history is sacred to me, not because there's any weird or incriminating stuff. It's just like, this guy's like a goddamn doofus. Like, he does not know anything.
It's like I told somebody earlier that I was Googling days between dates. You ever do that? You're like,
you do
something like 2 months ahead or whatever. And they responded. They're like, you didn't just look at the calendar? I'm like, no.
I'm not going to manually count stuff.
Because then I'll be out there dropping the fingers. Like, what? So.
To that point, I did see Adam Schefter tweeted this morning. There's 50 days left until the NFL season. So if you're really into counting stuff, so
we're gonna talk some football.
If there's
today,
anything
right?
that you need to like kind of tie together, like just use that as a benchmark. 50 days from now will be September 10th or whatever. So just keep that in mind. But I actually guess by the time this comes out, it'll be 49 days. But yeah, we're gonna talk about sports at some point. Do you have any lingering All-Star game thoughts? From the MLB, or home run derby. I saw ratings are down for the home run derby. It's going up against convention. It might have a lot has changed in the political world since last.
Yeah, that's true.
Convened.
Yeah, I guess we'll save that for the end, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We talked about this earlier. The All-Star game jersey thing it's just a disaster. We need to change
the jersey aspect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I liked your point. We were talking about how big Philly is, and that's what is it? 2 years from now.
2 years. That's
even Atlanta next year.
That's going to be the All-Star game to save the All-Star game.
Yeah. So
that's what we got to look at it as. We got a 2-year window to fix this.
I know it's not a revolutionary take to be like, these jerseys stink. The jerseys stunk, but I think we need to put the pressure on and just continue to lay into that. I think you just look at that one on, what was it, Tuesday night. These are so bad. There's no rhyme, no reason. It's like the pink team's playing the blue team. It's like a gender reveal party gone wrong.
Yeah,
it's just
bad gender reveal party.
It's unbelievable. I don't know. So I don't think that can be stated enough. The game was whatever. I didn't really watch much of it because I was turned off by the jerseys. So that's my sports take of the week.
You know what's crazy about the jerseys is that like that was the one thing that I feel like we were all in agreement on was good about the All-Star game.
That's a good point.
And they went ahead and changed it.
Yeah, who outside
like
of...
nobody was shaking their fists at the heavens like, God, we got to get these guys in the same uniforms.
The worst thing about this is like a two guys wearing number 19 and different jerseys.
Unless like you're, I don't know, colorblind and it's a play at second base or something. But
in which case, it's the middle of July. Go do something else. Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
Go jump into a pool with live wires.
That's
or something.
Bad news. We're going to talk a little bit of everything today. We're going to start with football, the NFL. We'll get into golf maybe. We'll do some media content, college football maybe too as we get out of here. But we'll start, I guess, with the NFL. I guess the big story right now is everything's tied to receivers. Training camps are kind of creeping up. the big news is coming out of San Francisco. Brandon Aiyuk, who's been in a contractual dispute longer than the weather's been hot here. This thing goes back, it feels like 3 years at this rate. Requested a trade. The Niners really in no position to trade him. I haven't really looked into the contract thing too much. There's a good piece in The Athletic looking at their 3 options, and one of them is basically just tell him to kick rocks, which I still think is the most likely outcome here. Do you think they actually trade him?
No.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think they trade him. I don't think they should trade him. I think he's a guy you like. I think you prioritize keeping a guy like that around, right? He's only 26.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It looks like he's 26.
Yeah, and he. I just think he is. I think he's underrated. To be honest with
that's
you.
one thing I did not realize. I started to dive into this.
Yeah, he's a good player.
The problem, and I think if you give everybody involved truth serum, like I do wonder if like the problem with this entire squabble is like the 49ers, and I think Shanahan makes all those decisions, probably values his system so highly and values what they've built there and the scheme and things like that he probably looks at it like your success is a byproduct of what we're putting out there and what we're putting you in. But you do, I was kind of blown away. Like looking at, I think it was in the Athletic story. There was one of these like scatter charts of, I think it was PFF grading for separation plus something with like yards after catch. And
he's way up in the top.
He's
right.
up in the top right with Tyreek Hill. It's like
you just look for those. Just look at the top right.
Yeah, and not to mention too, this is huge in that system. Great blocker. At least that's what everybody says. I did not crush the tape for this. I will say, but so you look at that and it's like you just from a general takeaway, you're like, yeah, I can see why this guy wants money. It is kind of funny. We talk about the odds. That's kind of what we do here. Like 20 players have shorter odds to lead the NFL in receiving yards this year. He's 80-1 to win Offensive Player of the Year at FanDuel. There's 31 players with shorter odds than him. Like, I do think he's probably he was 6th in the NFL in yards per route run last year. I do think he's underrated, but like whether you're talking about his contractual value or the betting board, it does feel not fair, but it kind of makes sense. So, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's
I'd love him on my team, but.
So the 49ers are right now co-favorites to win the Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Yep.
6-1. It's pretty clear they're all in for this year. Mm-hmm. So, isn't that incentive enough to just to the initial point, like just tell them to kick rocks and you're playing under this contract and that's it. We're going for it this year.
In these situations,
what are you gonna get? Like, what are you gonna trade him for?
The teams have the leverage, right? Like,
100%. And but it's not a situation where they're maybe a middle of the pack team, and it's like you trade them for draft comps. So that's the other thing too, right? Drafts is come and gone, and I understand they spent the first round pick on a receiver, so maybe you're accounting for down the road. I think that was probably more anticipating Debo maybe leaving after I think his contract's through next year, but I just don't see what would be a rational trade on their end because. You're probably doing it for something that can help you win the Super Bowl this year, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that trade exists. I saw one idea kicked around. It was what if you traded Aiyuk for Joey Bosa?
I was just gonna say the same thing. Yeah, it was Athletic story. Yeah,
just the idea being that just you address another position of need or a position you want to bolster.
Just weird. I don't think pass rusher is necessarily a position of need for them, but
right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great hockey trade.
Which now that I talk through it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
I would love that. The Bosa boys in San Francisco. I think giving him to Harbaugh and Herbert would be kind of sick too. He is the perfect Jim Harbaugh player, right? Where he blocks, he can run immaculate routes, et cetera, et cetera. But that's fantasy land when you start talking about these contracts and the way that they're structured. It's very hard to make the money work, or it's very hard to match contracts. And you're talking about one guy who's in a situation where he's ready to get paid or something's coming up, and then there's another guy who just got paid, and it's very difficult to move.
That's the other thing too with this, right? If you're the 49ers, it's you. I mean, Brock Purdy's making about $1 million this year, and so that whole contract situation is coming down the pike pretty quickly. And like, what do you do then? Like, I think they have 7 players making $15 million a year or more, which is tied for the highest in the NFL. So like, they're not necessarily in a crunch right now, but like looking ahead, you're getting into one. So, but if I look at that from like an age, skill, importance to the offense, like Aiyuk's one of the pieces I want to build around. I'm figuring out what to do with the other guys. What do you do with Deebo Samuel or like, are we gonna look back maybe starting like next year or the year after and be like, maybe they shouldn't give Christian McCaffrey all that money? It's like he blew away every running back in terms of contracts. So I don't know. We had this conversation a few weeks ago about how important wide receivers are.
Everything's cyclical. Yeah.
You know,
no, it is. He's a super interesting for the same reason that Purdy is interesting, where it's, again, I think system based, and there's a lot around him that makes his job a little bit easier.
I don't want to go on a complete tangent here.
Okay.
But like, they could be in a bad spot with Brock Purdy. Like, if he comes out and he's just kind of mediocre this year,
he might stink.
But then you're looking at like a New York Giants situation where like you almost have to pay Daniel Jones, in this case Brock Purdy, because like you can't just give up.
The worst thing that could happen is if he's kind of mediocre league average and then gets like hurt too. Like, that was the thing with Daniel Jones, is that you had to like make a decision without.
There's still like an unknown sort of variable there that like you're paying under the idea that like, well, maybe once this guy's back up and running at full strength, he's going to be worth it.
The more I think about the 49ers, this is the rubber is ready to meet the road. Like, they kind of have to do it this year, because I have to imagine like the patience with various the process related things is going to start running thin, where there's mounting evidence that Shanahan in big games is not the best in-game coach, or smaller games even. So like, and then the contract stuff. So all this stuff is going to come to a head sooner than later, and they've got to kind of figure out who they want to keep for the long term. That's why I guess if you're looking for any bit of leverage for Aiyuk, maybe it's that. But the whole thing, the window is, if it's not closing, I think we've unlocked it to kind of push it down.
It's a big year. Just more 49ers odds, plus 290 at FanDuel Sportsbook to win the NFC. Second shortest odds, the Lions at 6-1. So pretty big gap there in terms of like where they stand relative to the rest of the NFC. If you want to look at the NFC West, they are minus 195 to win the division. The Rams then are plus 330, Seahawks plus 750, Cardinals 12-1.
All right.
So, just a little 49ers talk for you.
This is, like you said, it's the middle of summer.
What did they do? Trade him though? Where does he go?
Yeah, so one of these offshore accounts, I think it was a sportsbetting.ag, sent out Brandon Aiyuk next team odds. And so the Steelers are the favorite at 4-1. Shout out Pittsburgh. Jacksonville 6-1. The Colts 7-1. The Commanders 8-1. The Chargers, the aforementioned Chargers 9-1. Patriots and Cardinals 10-1. And then you got like the Bills in there, the Giants. You look at that list and you're like, going back to the conversation about should they trade him, will they trade him? What are the Patriots going to give you that you're going to be like, yeah, let's make this deal? What are the Commanders going to give you?
Yeah.
Or even the Colts going to give you? Like, that's one thing where if you have, if your intention is to win right now, maybe you look at it and like, we can get by without him, and yes, we'll take draft compensation while we still can, but you almost kind of have to make a hockey trade where it's a player for player. You know what I mean? And you look at those teams, it's like, I'm not sure what you can get for that asset. I hate calling players assets, but I don't know. I like, if I were to make a bet here, I might look at like the Jets at 20-1 and just say, like, if they strike out on Devontae Adams or something like that, maybe they get weird and do it.
Yeah.
But the rest of this list, it might as well just be a dartboard.
It is like, there are so many variables that go into it, because then it's like, to go back to the contract stuff, like, teams got to have the cap space to give him the extension that, like, you're going to have to give him that monstrous extension as part of this. Like, that's, you're not just going to get him and he's going to play it out. So you need that. You need the talent or the draft capital to give up. Your competitive timeline, like that. Like, he's 26, so it doesn't. I guess even if you don't intend on contending this year or even next year, like, he's in theory should be around for a little bit. But just another thing to sort of factor in. Also, like if you're a team like Pittsburgh, you said they have the shortest odds.
Yeah, 4-1.
Like that's a team that if they do one thing well, it's they churn out wide receivers at a pretty good clip. Like do they need to give up assets to bring in a guy like Aiyuk or
no? Because and they're also
like
kind of early on in this rebuild. I don't see their
I have faith in them to draft one like next year.
Yeah, I don't see
their
quarterback of the future on the roster right now either. Like unless you really believe the Justin Fields reclamation project. I don't know.
In that case,
they just drafted Roman Wilson.
Pay him.
Like they drafted Roman Wilson out of like Michigan. And I think it was like 3rd round pick. He's gonna be an All Pro in 2 years at this rate. So like I don't know. I don't like that for them at all.
Where do you put Aiyuk in terms of like? I mean, I know we talked about he's underrated, but like if you're ranking wide receivers,
top 10 probably.
Yeah,
I tried to start.
I've seen two lists recently.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen either one of them.
No.
One from Pro Football Focus and one that actually came out today from ESPN.
I did not see that. No.
Oh.
Lay it on me.
Pro Football Focus has Aiyuk ranked. I think this was from like last month or something, but number 8 in the NFL.
Sounds about right.
Would you like to guess who's ahead of him?
Yes, I will guess. Justin Jefferson.
You did correct.
Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Jamar Chase.
Yep.
AJ Brown.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp.
No Cooper Kupp.
Interesting. Then Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just mentioned one of them.
What am I missing? Like one more?
2 more.
This is where it gets muddy. I don't know.
CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, of course. I always forget about CeeDee Lamb.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Sure.
ESPN had him number 10. I think it's basically the same group. Mike Evans being one guy.
Oh, this is NFL executives ranking this list. So.
And somebody else. But, yeah, so he's in like that 8 to 10 range. Cooper Kupp's an interesting one, though.
I don't know. For me, it was kind of like... So I built my own list, if I could give it to you. It's not 10, but again, I kind of already tipped my hand.
What do you got? How many you got?
5.
Okay.
So there's Justin Jefferson.
I got 5, too.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Number 1. Tyreek Hill, number 2. AJ Brown, number 3, until I see more out of number 4 is Jamar Chase, where it's like he could be. We're talking about bets in a little bit. I got something on him, and then I got Cooper Kupp when healthy in parentheses. So like, that's a huge wild card for a guy like that. Maybe I'm a year late on him. Maybe this is me. Like this is me in my fantasy drafts every year. It's like I know that name. The guy was good like 2 years ago. It's like, well, actually, you're getting very much in on the wrong side of his career arc. But
I could be the case. That could be the case for me with Devontae Adams because I think I would still include him in my top 5, just because I think I don't know how much longer he'll be in there. But like he was still pretty good last year with a absolutely atrocious quarterback.
Ceiling very easily top 5. Like I guess that's the guy that if I was looking at Cooper Kupp and be like, who you got to take him out, and it would probably be Devontae Adams because like I said, I kind of sleep on CeeDee Lamb. I can't tell you why. The numbers are through the roof. It all makes sense. I don't know. He doesn't talk about like game-changing talent. Doesn't always feel. I'm being extremely disrespectful to the man right now.
Well, maybe it's just because like of how much he plays in the slot relative to playing outside. Like I don't know. I guess I just want a guy who can beat you downfield a little bit more. Which is why the guy like Aiyuk so much is he is like as versatile as a lot of these guys. Where in your point. I know you've got the isolation camera set up on him to look at his blocking prowess. So
that's true.
Now that I know that, it's just like, whoa, boy, that's a whole other ball of wax.
CeeDee Lamb, 6'2", 200. I feels smaller than that for some reason. I can't tell you why. I don't know. Again, it's top level scouting takes.
So one question you posed the other day when we were just kind of kicking this around, like, what the hell are we going to talk about this week? Was like which wide receivers, which receivers are going to make you money this year. So
I thought that was a great way of posing it.
Yeah, it is good. But like because that's how I'm sort of looking at Cooper Kupp. Like that's a name that I'm looking at some of his props and
he's got to be like the favorite for comeback player of the year, right?
So he is. All right, offensive player of the year. He's sitting at 80-1. Which I don't think he's...
Yeah, he's probably not going to...
I don't know that he has a shot in that market. But his over-under for receiving yards, 925.5. Give me the over.
Yeah.
Give me the over on that.
I just made this up. Did he not? I thought he missed time last year.
He was kind of just overshadowed by
I guess
Puka
so,
Nacua,
yeah.
but
Maybe
I still think there's something. Like, I still think the volume's going to
I think
be
he's
there.
a 1,500-yard guy. Give me the field here in this. I don't see him anywhere for comeback. But I'm calling it a comeback. I will call it a comeback.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah. That's tantalizing. That total. I hate talking about those, so.
Yeah.
But I can see that. Like that one, you're just like, that feels low. Let's just go above it, and he gets back to normal.
All right, let's tackle this from another angle.
Do you trust Matthew Stafford to stay healthy?
The most regular season receiving yards for this season.
Yeah. Again,
if you wanted to turn this into a Cooper Cup podcast, but if you wanted to
Cooper
get
Cup
in
to
on
the Niners
in that market, where is he? He is down the board, it appears.
To lead the league in receiving yards?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just? It's got to be better.
55 to 1.
Short and 81. I'd rather just grab him offensive player of the year.
Tyreek Hill 5-1, obviously favorite. Justin Jefferson 7-1. CeeDee Lamb, your boy, 7-1. Amon-Ra St. Brown 10-1. I think I want some stock in him this year too. I think Ben Johnson coming back as OC in Detroit, that continuity plus just
I
that
think I might
rapport.
fade everything Lions related this year.
Really?
Yeah, which is probably reckless. I get it. Like I think maybe last year was the peak, so I'm just gonna be like, they can only go down. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they win the Super Bowl. I don't know.
Could I interest you in Garrett Wilson, most receiving yards at 24-1?
Nope. No, you cannot. Devontae
just
Adams is
posing
gonna
the
get
questions
it.
here, you know?
Okay. I was looking at offensive player of the year market. I like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, each 10-1. I kind of look at what Tyreek Hill was the offensive player of the year last year until he got hurt, and then that kind of screwed it up. So I think Justin Jefferson dealing with a bad quarterback situation, a bad receiver room situation, if he goes out and has 2,000 yards or goes nuts as he's wont to do, that feels like it could be in play. And Jamar Chase getting Burrow back and all that, the T. Higgins thing remains unresolved or kind of percolating. So I think it's just, hey, oh yeah, this guy's good still. One other one I looked at, I went to a different market, offensive rookie of the year, technically a receiver, Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
15-1. Can you name me another Giants receiver?
Darius Slayton.
Maybe like Wan'Dale Robinson is one.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Darius
So
Tony
I look
anymore.
at, like, if I'm looking at this stuff, especially if I want to bet like
Who's the other? Like Kenny
futures-
Galladay? Was he there at one point?
Yeah, he was at one point. Yeah. Galladay?
Yeah.
I thought you said Holiday.
No.
Bonnie Holiday, Roy Holiday. Happy holidays. Yeah, I just look like where are the opportunities,
Yep.
and can I kind of buy into a narrative with its quarterback or whatever. So,
Have you watched that?
I was just going to ask you the same thing.
No, I haven't.
I haven't watched a second of it, other than what I've seen on social. Seems like Devontae Adams is flapping his gums a lot. Amon-Ra St. Brown's dad seems cool.
Yeah.
Kittle, get out of my face.
Jimmy
and then the other
Garoppolo's
guys. Jimmy Garoppolo's just taking
getting
strays left and
walloped.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's I from what I've seen, it looks interesting. Actually, we can kind of use this as a kind of going to our next topic, talking about just general content, and, the media and things like that. I actually think the Hard Knocks this offseason, I don't have HBO, so I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But Twitter allows me to watch basically all the good stuff. This like behind the scenes, front office, off-season roster building has been super interesting for me, especially they picked a good one with the Giants where it's the Saquon thing. John Mara is a recognizable owner who is heavily involved in football ops by the look of it. They had a high draft pick. They're wheeling and dealing at the combine with the Patriots. I think it's been like really, really good. This is like the best Hard Knocks content I've watched in a long time.
That's the clip of, I think it was from the combine,
Yeah.
Asking the Patriots about the number 3 pick.
Yeah.
And, like just going over to the box and being like, hey, like let us know before you trade out of there or whatever. Like that was fascinating. That was way more fascinating than any like sideline blow up.
That's the thing. Is like
maybe I'm just a nerd in that regard, but like
yeah. Well, I just think Hard Knocks has gone on for so long that like the tropes are so obvious and so prevalent every year. Where it's like, all right, one guy is going to be on the roster bubble. One guy is going to be the overpriced veteran who's trying to get his career back in line. Here comes the really cool guy who's wearing those like Oakley wraparounds from 2002. Like, it's just, one guy can't get in the building, and then one day they're going to go hunting or they're going to go bowling or they're going to go like, but the roster stuff is always prevalent. The problem is like teams are very secretive of that stuff. And it's hard to get.
I think that was the thing. It's like, it's so rare that you get an inside look like that. And it's also just like, I mean, I heard somebody talk about this recently, but like, you've kind of seen a shift over the years where like the stuff that happens on the field is secondary to the whole roster building component. Like the fact that we sat here and just spent, but like the fact that we sat here for 15 minutes and talked about Brandon Aiyuk's next team, like a hypothetical that is probably not going to happen, but it's a way more fascinating conversation sitting around talking about that than Brandon Aiyuk's blocking.
Well, and like the genius of this Hard Knocks season is it's in the middle of the summer. There's not a whole lot else going on. So like, we'll be having our conversations 3 months from now, and it's gonna be strictly football for the most. Like you get back into it at some point, but it's a good way of keeping it alive. It's
also just like a fantasy component to it.
Yeah. But like this thing's kind of taken over sports. Like everybody's doing docs. Like the Red Sox. Again, you talk about like this time of year. I'm excited to watch the Netflix one eventually. Be like, what happens at the trade deadline? What are those conversations about? We're all having conversations about the Red Sox. Where it's like, do they want to buy? Should they sell?
Yeah.
How do they actually feel about the team? Well, presumably we're going to see that. I think we're looking forward. I think this is the jumping off point here. Is there's a story in the Athletic about like the evolution of golf content, and like Bryson DeChambeau has been at the forefront of that. But you also look at like Full Swing and all the Netflix, the F1, Drive to Survive, and it's like everybody's doing this right now, and I think it's been good for the sports fan for the most part. It's been pretty enlightening. We're getting stuff to kind of your point, like we all are going to watch the game. We're all going to interact with the game in the same exact way. This kind of gives you a little bit more that maybe you don't always get, and you can apply it to having opinions or winning arguments with your friends. So I think that's been super interesting. Like with the golf stuff, like the LIV versus the PGA Tour, like there's been some insight to that. Like, Rory talking trash about Phil Mickelson in season 1, stuff like that, or the Ryder Cup.
Like anecdotally, I think it works in terms of bringing new eyeballs.
Yeah,
because like I've been in multiple situations where somebody that is not a fan of that particular sport would be like, "Oh, well, I watched that thing on Netflix." And
I mean, they're gonna.
Like the F1 thing,
they'll make documentaries about the documentary for F1. Like it is completely, like nobody cared about F1 in America. Now, I know it's a little cliche. Like you're gonna go over to you're speaking of neighbors, you cross the street, the guy who makes his own beer, he's gonna do. You're gonna watch the. What do you think of Ferrari this weekend? It's like shut up, dude. But yeah, I think everybody thinks they're an expert now. So there is that. Is there one thing that you'd want to see that hasn't been done yet in terms of like a behind the scenes doc series?
You know what? Like I'd like to see like more, like the reporting side of things. Like I'm thinking like behind the scenes with like Woj and
I like that. Yeah.
And like Schefter, like call it Insider or something. Like I don't even give you the name. Like just seeing what their day to day is, or especially like go around the winter meetings or something and seeing like
that's true
how all those things are.
That's a good call. Like that, like just
because that goes back to like the roster building thing and what I found so fascinating about Hard Knocks. It's just like if you can apply that somewhere else, like that to me would be.
That's true. It's like you could do that, like blur out stuff on boards, and you don't have to keep every conversation in there. But if a guy's gonna go somewhere, like you can do it in a way that's not
so the reporting and then also just like I don't know, the scenes where like there's a GM in an office or even a head coach, just like that office setting, there's something about that.
It brings you back
it's
to
like you feel like you're really like, okay, now I might learn something.
It's like the NFL head coach video game. I can see that that
exactly.
That desk set up in there. But yeah, I think that's a good one. For me, I just always revert to golf with pretty much everything with sports at this point in my life. I would love to see like an 8-episode miniseries or doc series about the Masters with and they have done some of it with Full Swing, but like completely pull back. And one of these episodes, I'm going with the head greenskeeper, and this is how this place is so.
It's more like production based than the actual golfer.
Yep.
Because like me and you have talked about this, but like they had that WrestleMania YouTube thing that came out recently.
Yeah, right.
And like the most fascinating part of that, to me at least, was like literally just The Rock like coming out practicing his new entrance and being like, I got to take 7 steps to get to that point on the floor. And it's just like that weird nuance that's happening that you don't even really know about when you're watching it at home, seeing that.
Yeah.
And then like comparing and contrasting what you saw versus.
Yeah.
It's just that is way more fascinating to me than.
Yeah. With like the Masters, it's like, here is the peach ice cream sandwich shipment coming in. And like, here is a look into the meeting as to how they can make concessions so affordable, or like that the merch store or whatever merch, calling it a merch tent is probably disrespectful to Augusta National, but like how do they keep that thing humming? How does that and then you can get into the sport too. Like eventually this transitions to like, here's how we run the actual tournament. For me, that stuff's interesting. I would also do it for the Open Championship, known stateside as the British Open. Like they have this, what is it, like 10 course-ish Rhoda, like St. Andrews, where they were a couple years ago, the old course. They shut that thing down on Sundays and turn it into a park. Like you can walk your dog down the 18th hole, go over the bridge. Like, it's nuts. Like just that,
wild.
To kind of lean into like that area and just everything that comes to that culture,
like the venue side
where
of things,
it all meets, it comes together as one. I think that's super interesting. Like the USGA, I think did it for the US Open. It was kind of half-assed, but like really dive into that would be interesting. That's also a way to get into the British Open discussion.
I was just say, you got that going on this week.
So I guess there's not a whole lot we can get into here. We're going to go really quick with the British Open because, again, this is going to be a little bit dated by the time.
Is this the, you would know better than I would, is this the most difficult major to predict?
Yes, because it's the biggest field. It is the elements are a huge factor, more so than anywhere else. Like, you know what you're getting in Augusta, Georgia. Like this week they're at Royal Troon in Scotland. Literally, like you walk under the tent and you're at the first hole and it runs straight along the beach. Yeah. And the wind's coming one way, then it comes the other. It's always raining in that part of the world. So there's just so many variables.
You get a little taste of that with the Scottish Open too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I actually heard on one of the podcasts I listened to, they were talking about like the average age of the other 3 majors is like 3 or 4 years younger than the average age of the winner of the Open Championship. I think that kind of speaks to like, you got to learn how to play. It's an entirely different style of golf. It's this links golf as opposed to target golf in America. We play so many tournaments over here on like soft, luscious grass where it's just like hit the ball as far as you can and then hit a wedge into the green. Out here, you got to be a little more creative. So I think that's one of the interesting things.
Would you say that you would put more stock in somebody's experience or past results at this major relative to like other majors?
Not necessarily, because the venue changes every year. So like with this one, Royal Troon, it's an interesting one. It's the greens are very, very small, so that kind of puts an emphasis on ball striking in the approach game, which there always is. But you look at the old course, those greens are massive, so like lag putting is a huge thing. This week it'll be more around the green, so I'm kind of like targeting guys who are really good, really straight off the tee, and have some touch around the green, and maybe putting isn't as much of an issue. So like, you look at the betting board, Scotty Scheffler plus 450 almost feels like he's forgotten about. He's clear favorite. This thing, like every other place, sets up really well for him. Guys like that who can, like I said, hit the ball a mile, hit it straight, and are crafty around the green. Rory falls into that bucket. Colin Morikawa, who, if the wind isn't blowing, is up there. John Rahm, who's had a rough year, kind of checks a lot of those boxes. So again, it feels like I'm naming off like really good players, but that is what it is. It's just, I think it's going to be, you go back to 2016 on Sunday, it was a duel between Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson. Henrik Stenson's one of the best ball strikers of his generation, and Mickelson's no slouch as a ball striker, but he's obviously wonderfully talented around the green as well. So it makes sense that those two were like, they just lifted and separated from the rest of the field. So that's kind of just what I'm looking at. You can look a little deeper on the board, like Joaquin Niemann, a guy who's on live. He's got a lower ball flight. Again, keep it under the wind. I think he's a guy maybe can be messed with this week. Hideki Matsuyama, who I always bet at majors. You go way down. Davis Thompson, I like at 110, plus 110. Aaron Rye, plus 80.
What do you not like?
I don't like... I don't like Morikawa because I think the wind.
Did you say you liked Morikawa?
No, I think he fits the model. But you look at the British Open, he doesn't do well in the elements. So though he did win a British Open, but it was a week that was just remarkably, I think it was at Royal St. George's. It was sunny and 75 the entire weekend. Didn't really come into an effect. Shoffley, I don't know, like he can go low. Again, this one feels like it's going to be a relatively low scoring one. Brooks Koepka just hasn't been in form all year. I know there's a lot of love for Victor Hovland this week. His short game, I'm still not sold on, so that's an issue for me. So guys like that, I would probably fade. So Rahm, I'm not betting, even though Rahm's just a mess.
Yeah, what the hell happened to him?
But he's 25-1 now, so maybe I'm kind of into it. I don't know.
Buy the dip.
Some people are super routine oriented. Yeah. And so I do wonder if it's kind of thrown off. So
I would think too that might especially be the case for a guy like that who played in so many tournaments prior to going to live. Like it felt like he was playing like every tournament.
Yes.
His last year.
He had a very defined schedule. Yeah. Now it's just completely different. So Thompson and Rye. I got a plus 20 parlay. 1180, 12-1, 25 to win 295. Just something to throw out there. We'll circle back on that next week. One other thing before we get out of here. CFB 25.
We have to talk about it because it's just everybody in my timeline is talking about it.
I can't. My entire Twitter For You feed at this point is assassination, political conspiracy theories, and college football 25.
That's what happens, man. You click on one wrong thing and it's just,
I know.
You're flooded with it.
I'm just watching videos of like guys trying to rebuild Western Kentucky. Yeah. I will say there's been some great jokes about their like dynasty mode where it's like making fun of Georgia. This is not funny, but it's like, it's trying to recruit guys. It's like, come here and we'll go just drive really fast. Just guys talking about the reckless driving down in Athens. So yeah, I haven't played. We were just talking about it before we came in here. I have a PS3 and nothing more than that. So
I just got whatever the most recent Xbox. I don't even
Xbox One, Xbox Two,
I think. It's one it doesn't even play discs.
Yeah, right.
You got to download the game. So I had like a Target gift card or something. This was like a few months ago.
Virgin Pulse.
And anytime you get a gift card, it's like it's fake money. So actually might not even be a Target gift card. It might be like one of those like American Express things. But whatever. But I landed on the fact that I was either going to buy an Xbox or luggage.
What a life you live, man. I'm so jealous.
I opted for the Xbox. But that was the first time I've like played a video game in years. I played it once.
The problem with video games and a video game console is you have to pay for the video games. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Right? Video games are expensive now. So anyway, this game looks awesome. I was reading, was it Chris Villani? Does he work for The Athletic? I'm trying to find the note. Like his lead was, nostalgia is undefeated, right? Was the first line of his review of the game. And he's like, eventually it does live up to it. But yeah, like I think a lot of why people are so excited about this is because they took it away for so long and then brought it back. Like I was just telling Ante, like I was playing the one with RG3 on the cover during COVID. That was back when like Big Cat was grinding on it too. And it was just, I'm rebuilding. This was again before I had a kid as well. I'm trying to rebuild Rutgers. I'm making Rutgers a national powerhouse, like that kind of stuff. And tying it all in is like the front office simulation stuff that we talked about earlier. That's the kind of the thing that gets me going.
I was going to say, like, so picking a team, picking a school is a program. Is it's difficult.
It is difficult.
Like, where do you go there?
You want something that's a little, you don't want to go. You don't want to be dealing with a years long thing where you're just really gonna be. You got to find like 8 days in a row to build this thing up.
I think I want a team
like a mid-major
who hasn't had a ton of recent success, but had success in the past.
It's all the worst Big Ten teams.
Who has like but
like Purdue,
who also has like an atmosphere. You want an atmosphere if you're gonna be playing these games, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like what about like Nebraska?
Nebraska is a great choice.
Or like the other one I picked out, Arkansas. If you want to go SEC. Take down some of the juggernauts. There you go.
Washington State, Oregon State, those types of ones. Yeah, because that's the thing. You want to be able to be invited to the college football playoff.
Yeah,
things like that. Video games. Let's run through our favorite sports video games of all time because this one sounds like it's skyrocketing up people's list.
Yeah,
I have an exhaustive list. As I was telling Ante, none of it is in the last 30 years, or it seems like, or the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I think my favorite video game of all time is MVP Baseball 2005, the one with Manny on the cover for PlayStation 2. A game, if you gave it to me right now, I would waste like 3 hours on it every night. I'd be up till 2 in the morning playing that. So that's my number one with a bullet.
I loved NHL 95.
Dude, I have literally on my
Like
list.
the blue ice.
NHL 94 gets all the credit because it was
95
in
was
swingers.
sick.
93 or 95, and 95 is awesome. Like,
You know what? I don't remember 96, but then I remember 97 with John Van Beesbrook on the
Sure.
cover, and that was when if you compare 95 and 97, the ice color is way different.
but it was a great game. Functionality made a lot of sense. The rosters are good. I can see like that, like the playoff bracket of Cape. Was Quebec still around back then against? Yeah, oh God, it's just I love it versus Boston or Hartford. Like, just seeing the fonts and everything. It's more for like the aesthetics. Again, it always comes back to the aesthetics. I got RBI Baseball for regular Nintendo is up there.
I had it on Sega 4. RBI Baseball 4. The guys had 3 different stances.
Yeah, right.
One for like the speed guy.
The
one
big
for
guy who's like he shakes his bat. Who's always the best hitter. Like
Yeah.
Madden 2000 has got for PlayStation 2 the theme song by Ludacris. I actually don't remember if the game was that good, but that I could sing that entire theme song still word for word.
Madden 96 on Sega.
That was a good one.
He flattened him like a pancake.
Game Day 97, 98, around there, Terrell Davis' heyday. The unbeatable juke move.
On. And NFL has had some good ones because you know what I also liked was when they had like the Dreamcast, NFL 2K, very underrated.
Nobody had a Dreamcast.
I did.
Of course you did.
It's probably the last video game I played before I bought my Xbox and threw my luggage to the side. I had a lot of good NFL games.
There's actually a good story out there about this game. Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball for Super Nintendo. There must have been something with the union, so they had to use historical names for every team. So like the Red Sox were like Andre Dawson was Aaron Burr. I think Mo Vaughn maybe or somebody was like Paul Revere. It was nice. It was great. That game's awesome. And then Tiger Woods PGA Tour 12, the Masters. I still play that when I do hit the sticks. It's like, I'm getting ready for Augusta. I'm going downstairs to play the game.
To tie everything together, Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest, what they believe was N64.
N64, yeah.
At the 1999 MLB All-Star Game Fan Fest here in Boston.
Course, yep.
I
Still
won
got the duffel bag.
It was like a black wiffle ball bat type thing.
Got it?
Like a fake Ken Griffey Jr. It might have been real. I don't know. But if you hit 10 home runs in the home run derby, you got that bat.
Did you ever have the big foam blue bat that could hook up to the game and you could swing it? It was like virtual reality.
I had some sort of variation.
And I cracked it over my brother's head or vice versa, and the thing got bent and we never got to use it again.
Should have been standing there.
Who do you think's going to win the national championship this year?
Who the hell knows? I don't know. Georgia.
Ohio State. All right. Anything else, Ricky?
No, I got nothing.
Let's get out of here. I got stuff to do. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. This has been the Spread in Essence Sports Betting Picks podcast. Thanks for joining us. Check us out next week and check out everybody on the Nesson Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us. See you then.